Hey Neppers, it's me, Wild Neptune. I'm back, and today gonna bring you a little bit of a guide on the new custom Mystic banner. Gonna be a tier list, all the good stuff. But before that, make sure you like, comment, subscribe, and catch me at Twitch at twitch.tv/WildNeptune. Let's go. Okay, before we start off, this is very important. This custom Mystic banner is different from the previous one. First of all, it lasts for about, I think, half as long. I believe the last one lasted for 3 months. This one is 6 weeks. Like the last one, the pity does not carry over to any other banner. You get those coins when you summon. The difference here is that you cannot swap to a second Mystic hero, well, 5-star, after you pull the first one. So you can't do any of that double dipping, which is why I will say, unless you have a pity or know you can guarantee a pity within this 6-week period, do not summon on this banner. That being said, if you do have it, we can do a list here of all the heroes. Enjoy. Some basic ground rules for the list. We're going to assume here you are a fairly established player now, at least to the point where you have enough to have the pity or be able to get it within the time limit, which does take a little bit of time. There will be like a hierarchy in the importance of each mode. So RT at the top, then things like Guild Wars, Adventure, like other stuff, Arena below that. But just because a hero might be only good at RTA, but suck at everything else, and they're still really, really good at RTA, they're still an S-tier character. But if a character is like only good at, say, Guild Wars, but kind of mad at everything else, they might not get that S-tier. Probably not. And that's just the criteria that we're gonna go with. And let's get started now with the list. So we'll start off here with a Tywin, ambitious Tywin, only a RTA character, really. So we'll be judged based on that. And for that, we'll put him right into the A for no. We'll put him to the B. He's a B because, well, I don't really have him myself, but when he's used against me sometimes, and he's okay against some of my comps, he tends not to be able to get his stuff going quite fast enough. And I'm not even an aggressive player, right? And the meta is very aggressive right now. So I feel in a lot of cases, he just kind of dies or doesn't get as much value. And you don't have debuffs that are AoE. You can just kind of ignore him and he doesn't quite do as much. You can also kind of counterpick him with like immunity and stuff like that also is still really strong against him. But he is still strong into certain compositions. It's just that his use cases are kind of hit or miss. But B is still a solid choice. I would say B is like the baseline of being a good hero. APOC Ravi. Let's just jump in here for a second here. She's not a B tier hero, but this is going to take a little bit more talking about. APOC Ravi is an interesting hero. At one point in the game, she was the best ML5, like bar none. The only hero that gets done at the Hua Young, but then a lot of changes happened. Shu, like, became really popular. Alensi got her injury. Hua got nerfed. And slowly but surely, a Ravi started dropping down and down. Crimson Sea got nerfed. And all of a sudden, a Ravi, well, she's the worst hero in the game now. You know, not quite to that extent. But more recently, people have been finding that, guess what? A Ravi, who, by the way, herself did not get any nerfs at all, right? Has been slowly climbing and climbing and climbing and climbing up the ranks. To the point where I am very tempted to put her into S, but I'm not quite ready to do that yet, as the relative power level of the heroes that will be in S are a bit higher, I would say, and they have, slightly more use cases. Now, APOC Ravi she is still really strong in RTA. She's not a every match pick anymore, but against some comps that just don't have enough damage to deal with her anymore, or as kind of an anchor still for some cleave teams, she's really, really good. Not even cleave, just like you can draft her in an aggressive team, and then you can pivot out as, anything you want to. In arena defense, she's still relatively powerful, and she also can be a pretty nice force on arena offense too sometimes. So don't sleep on her. She is really strong right now. Arbiter Rildred. Man, times have changed. We'll put him into the D tier. He has very niche applications in any PvP now, where nobody uses him at all. I can't remember the last time I saw an RV in RTA. So his really only factor is farming in adventure mode, which I still use him for some of the easier stages that I run through, because he's really strong at that, right? But that's about it. Archdemon Shadow, we'll put her, I would say, into a B. And these, by the way, within the tiers, they're not really in any order here. Archdemon Shadow is probably the most infuriating hero in the game. Sometimes she pops off and you just win. Other times she does nothing and you're basically playing a 3-on-4. I cannot count how many times I picked her and she doesn't counter at all, or she never procs her second attack, or like I soul burn and I get the seal, but it's still nothing happens. It is so annoying to use her. She is a decent force ban against certain comps. It's just that, like a Tywin, she suffers the same issues where the meta is just so aggressive that she's hard to use right now. Although she is, depending on the build you have, a little bit better into things like immunity and stuff like that, because you have the potential to run violin and stuff like that. Even though I would say that Fairy Tale artifact is the best on her right now. Astromancer Alencia. This is a hero I don't really have a lot of experience with. You don't really see it that much in World Arena, and I think part of that is because not a lot of people actually have her. Her anti-counterattack thing is, I don't know, it doesn't really mean that much, I don't think, especially because she's really only using cleave. I guess it stops Politis and Bellion and things like that. That's decent. But for Guild Wars and stuff like that, for anti-counterattack, that's actually pretty decent. However, I don't think I could put too much stock in that as an MO5 pick, so I'll put into C, Bellion. Bellion, we will put right into this S right now. Bellion is one of the most important counter picks that you can have in RTA. So much so that she was one of the most banned characters and most picked characters too in the game. What Bellion has done to combat cleave cannot be understated. He is probably the most important athletic character you can have on your roster. And she's not even good against every cleave. And not only cleave, she's also really good against Petra Tenebria. Now, the caveat here is that she has two builds, injury and counter, and they're both good against certain things. She's also one of the best heroes you can use on arena defense, which is very annoying. Blood Moon Haste. So Blood Moon Haste, I would say, is a character that you do not want to consider picking up because he's probably the worst ML5 in the game. I cannot believe how bad he is. He only has like one real application in the game right now, and that is slow A13. And people don't really farm A13 anymore. Okay, Brian Witch's area. A character was buffed a little while ago, and I would say that she is probably an A tier character. Really only good in, again, RTA, although she does have some applications in, against some arena defense teams too, on your offenses. She really shines the most in more aggressive comps, and since everybody's going very aggressive these days, she's good for a lot of people. Her gear requirements are actually pretty high, and if you don't have a spare guiding light or something like a Misha, she can kind of struggle a little bit in the artifact department, but just her anti-revive right now and her debuffs puts out pretty good damage overall. Definitely a strong pick, a force ban in a lot of cases too. And now we have our good friend, Closer Charles. Another unit really only used in Cleave. Has that attack buff, the push I believe. He has evasion. He's actually a character with a really, really loaded kit. It's just that I don't really see him that much. Mostly because there were just kind of better openers or things that just do the job a little bit better than he does. So I'll put him to C right now. Nothing much to say here. If you Cleave or want to go more aggressive, he's okay. I would say too though, for the Cleave comps that use Charles, they tend to have a little more staying power because of his evasion, so just something to consider. So if you're worried that, hey, like this guy, he's taken up a lot, and I don't know my Cleave team will they like push through, maybe Closer Charles is a good option for you in order to potentially, grind through a tiny bit. Not that much, right? But he might give you that extra turn or two that you need to win those matches. Commander Pavel. I would say that Commander Pavel Cleave is okay. In my opinion, it is one of the Cleaves that is easier to counter than other Cleaves. At least for me, my setup and compositions tend to be pretty strong against it. That being said, I'll probably put it into B just because of the accessibility of the Cleave. Also, from what I've seen, I don't have him and I don't run Cleave in Guild Wars, but a lot of players I know like running Caval Cleaves in Guild Wars just because it's fast and fairly consistent to do. Conqueror Lilius. We'll put it right in the S tier. No need to talk about this one that much. Really only for RTA, but she is probably one of the strongest, and well, besides Lua, but definitely up there for the strongest first pick in the game right now. Overwhelmingly strong, I think. Not too many counter picks either. Just a top tier unit. Even me, who doesn't really play aggro a lot, if I'm first pick, she's definitely in consideration for me to first pick her. And when I'm second pick, I have her pre-banned. Only other application for her would be for some Hall of Trials, but that's like barely content. Dark Corvus is going to be up next, and we will put him into B? B or C? We'll put him into B right now. I'm going to move him down. Now, Dark Corvus is actually really good into some arena offenses. So, like, on your arena offense team. And he's actually really good in Guild Wars. It's just that you have to commit so much time to use him. In RTA, he's only really good against some compositions, like once in a blue moon. But when you pick him in those compositions, they have to ban him, right? So you basically get your free, like, your first 4 for free. Let's move him down to C. He's not picked that as much in RTA. That dealer Ray, you can't pick him yet. So, now for Digital Bazaar. Digital Bazaar is one of the characters that gives me fits. I hate fighting him so much. He is so annoying to a lot of my comps. That being said, I do think you have to have a certain playstyle to use him. And again, he's the character that's only good in PvP. RTA specifically. He has the push, the cleanse, immunity. He has those debuffs, all that stuff. I will put him to A tier. I think he's a really good character right now. A lot of the top tank in the game, Arrow, uses the barrier. The other characters too, they get barriers. And a funny interaction is that since a lot of people have, now don't count on this, it's just, but a lot of characters have Conqueror Lilius on Music Box, right? And Music Box can give a barrier. And sometimes, well, the Music Box, to fight a DJV, it just, loses you the game, which is quite hilarious in my opinion. Dilibet. We will plot Dilibet into the B tier, probably at the top of B tier. She is harder to use now than she used to be. A big thing is that a lot of Cleave teams use multiple fast characters, where if your Dilibet is like pretty fast, she doesn't always get the cut. And if any of you like 15% something on the Ran, then you just lose. That being said, she's still, decent against some Cleave comps. And on top of that, if you are fighting, say, one of these Death Dealer Ray teams, and you have like Lifesteal, Saiga, stuff like that, well, you just kind of win, because she just keeps pushing herself up and keeps taking all those turns and everything, which is a little nice tech to have. Just know that you cannot do both of those builds at the same time. Faithless Lidica. Right now, A tier. I will say that she is one of the harder characters on this list to build. Now, to be fair, almost all these characters are hard to build, but Faithless Lidica definitely requires some of the better gear to get her online. Very few counters in the game. I do have some text against her that I'm not willing to share myself right now, but kind of annoying. She has three builds. She has the fast build, so like 280 plus with effectiveness. Then she has the damage builds. She has like a 250 to 260-ish build with full damage, and then just one a tiny bit slower on immunity instead. Fallen Cecilia. We will put her into C tier, and she's actually pretty close to D tier, but she does have some uses in RTA against anti-cleave, stuff like that, mainly because her Aureus cannot get stripped off like the escort from Arrowwell. That being said, I think Carmen is a better all-purpose anti-cleave than FCC right now, because Carmen isn't as punished by things like barrier killers and things like that. A big problem with FCC is that she just dies to GJB, which is actually a pretty big factor in why she's kind of down this low in my opinion also. And also, there are just a lot of other strong knights in the game where you don't really have to pick her. Jugsy say, we'll put her into the double D tier. No, the F tier. She's a character that is not fast enough to do what she wants to do in PvP, and in PvE actually has less applications than ML Haste. Now, I do think she's a better PvP character than ML Haste, but when both characters basically do nothing, it's hard to say. right? The crowd, we'll put him into D tier. And like Arby, he's only really good for one thing tech-wise, which is in PvP against some like compositions as a tech, right? Now, I did a little while try to use him as this tech, and it actually, if you play like I do, it actually does kind of work, but it is very MLM. It is a scam. Do not do it. Artemisia, I will say right now, she's an A tier character. Very gear heavy. One of the hardest characters on this entire list of gear. Also, you'll probably have to dedicate one of your proof of balance to her, so another thing to consider. That being said, and also again, the meta is aggressive, and sometimes she just gets popped and killed. But overall, just for pure value, because counterattacks and dual attacks, stuff like that, those will always be a thing. And Lionheart Cermia is just so strong against them. She's also one of the strongest characters on your arena defense team as like a last piece to make your team very annoying to plan against. Little Queen Charlotte. I will say, despite everybody being upset, me included, that she did not get a buff, I think that she is a pretty good hero right now if you know how to use her. And because of that, I will put her into the B tier. To be fair, if a Ravi was worse, I also think Little Queen Charlotte would also be worse. Well, because a Ravi has proven to be pretty popular, I think LQC stock has risen up because of that. Also because of Bellona here too. But you can't pick Bellona. But as more dark characters become more and more popular, LQC stock will keep rising up. Like Hand Guy, stuff like that is strong right now. Maid Chloe, I will put into B tier, I will say. Probably the top of B tier. Because she doesn't offer as much immediate healing as other Soul Weavers in the game, Destina. She can be hard to use sometimes unless you are building compositions specifically around using Maid Chloe. If you do use one of those compositions though, she is an anchor. You have to have her. That being said, she is punishable. Landy, of course, things like Rimuru, things like that, or just really high aggression. Like Bryceria is really strong against her too. So there are a lot of things that people use commonly that does annoy her quite a bit. Ken, he is another F tier character. 1 point, the MO5 everybody wanted. Now he does virtually nothing. Hand Guy or Meteor Calric, he's an S tier character. If you let first pick Silius happen, Emo Calric is one of the only real ways to kind of block that. He has attack buff immunity, his push is strong, he has multiple builds you can have on him also. Damage, you can run this jank effectiveness build. Some people are running ER, right? All speed bulk. Just a very powerful character. Definitely one of the best cleansers, if not the best cleanser in the entire game at the moment. Op Sig. I would say Op Sig is similar to Closer Charles in how to kind of use. She has more the anti-barrier thing. But it's just that, like Closer Charles, I don't really see her that much. And I feel like people, when they are drafting Anti-Cleave, have gotten smarter, and they don't really draft as many barriers into it, because they don't even really draft FCC anymore in the Anti-Cleave. For that, I would say she's probably more of a D tier character, as I don't really see as much upside using her over Closer Charles, which I do have some upside in. Pirate Flam. In the A tier right now. At the moment, she's not the greatest because, again, fights are really fast a lot of the times, and she's not that great in super fast compositions. However, as the season goes on, especially towards the later days, everything always slows down. It's happened in just about every season. The meta slows during the last days, especially at the top, right? Now, this is considering you have Caesaria's or Summertime Isaria's artifact. If you do not have that artifact, do not pick her. She is useless. But if you have that artifact, she's an A tier hero. Vented Violet. A B tier. I've had matches where Vented Violet is down here. I've had matches where he's up here. He is an enigma, a mystery among mysteries. What kind of hero are you going to get? He is the ultimate hero to represent Epic 7. You just never know. Ruel of Light. We will put her into D tier. Pretty similar to RV and LOK. She can be used in some PvP. Would I recommend you do this? No, because why? It's that right now the meta is, again, it's too fast for her to really be used. Sage Ball. I'll put him into A tier right now. Like Bellion, he's a really good anti-cleave unit, but he's not good against every cleave team. I've always said, for your anti-cleave, you want a suite of units. Do not crutch on one anti-cleave unit. Make sure you have a lot of them built so you can mix and match them against certain compositions. But Sage Ball is one of the anchors for anti-cleave. Silverblade Araminta, she's an F tier character, possibly even worse than ML Haste. The only thing I use her for is for Nightmare Arakan, because I use her with Carrot, because they know all the burns and everything, right? Gotta burn everything. Solitaria of the Snow is another A tier character. If your opponent has no real cleanse or is lacking in ways to AoE, Solitaria is really strong. So annoying to deal with. She checks a lot of characters too, like Vented Violet, because even if she misses something on the Vented Violet, just the fact she has that anti-focus thing in her kit is just so good. Specimen says, so I'm a player who has actually used them occasionally, and because of that, I consider myself to be an expert in Specimen Says, and this expert says that Spez is a F tier character. Where do you go? Here he is. He is just way too risky to use overall. At least with Ruel, you kind of know, almost guaranteed, you are getting something, right? With Spez, you just kind of don't know. He's just kind of a generic Darius dealer that can stun sometimes. Now, it's I guess some comps, he might be a must ban, or something that, hey, is this is actually pretty scary. But that rarely happens, right? And unlike Arby, Spez is completely useless in PvE. Who is not useless in PvE or useless in PvP, it's Veteranebria, who's an S tier character. Now, if you've been playing the game correctly, you should have picked her from your Moonlight Connection, but if you did not, this is your chance to potentially get her. Spectre Tenebria is an anomaly among ML 5 stars because ML 5 stars have been traditionally made to be only good for World Arena now. Spectre Tenebria is basically good in like all content in the game. Abyss, Arena, Guild Wars, RTA, Adventure. She's not really good in hunts, but you know, whatever. She can be good at everything. Spectre Tenebria is basically as good of a unit for DPS as you can get. Spirit Eye Selene, a character that I've recently built up. Her gearing is really hard, by the way. I was really surprised at how hard she is to gear. I'll put it in C tier. She's a hero where you have to have a plan to use her, and you have to have very high knowledge of heroes and compositions to know when to pick her in RTA. Otherwise, she does nothing, right? She has an anti-cleave build, which goes super fast with something like Storm Sword. She has like a bulk, not a bulk build, but like an ER build too now, where so she can get stripped off and everything like that. She's basically, I would say, a better ML Ken. With like a lot more upside and a lot more viability, mainly because of her class as a thief. Straze, will put into... He's like low A, high B, I would say. Against tanky players, he's like a must ban. But in aggressive versus aggressive, he's not that good, which is what a lot of the meta is at the moment. So definitely more of a tech choice in some cleave comps against tank downs. Also okay in some arena offenses, although he's risky to use in those. Sylvan Sage, I would say, is a pretty strong B hero. Very good against Spectre Tenebria, actually. One of the stronger counter picks into her, in my opinion. It's just that like extra attacks, like defense penetration, stuff like that, can kind of whittle her down quite a bit. But when she gets like revving up, she is very strong and very dangerous against, squishy characters. Top model Lulika, I've actually been seeing her a little bit more recently, and she's actually kind of impressed me. Not as much to put it into like this B tier, but I'll put it into C tier. I think like Spirit Eye Selene, that if you know how to use her and have good knowledge of the compositions like that, she can be a good hero. I think she's a little bit easy to use, Spirit Eye Selene. But again, both their gearing points are very high. And of course, we cannot pick Ziget either, as he is too new. Okay, now, I do want to talk about a few of these ML5s. So let's ML5s, some of these ML4s. We will put ML4s to consider. Alright, here we go. These ML4s, if you don't have them, and you're put on this banner, you might want to consider using your leftover coins for. Of course, there's AOL, who's the best ML4 star in the game for PvP. Also, might want to consider Bloodblade Karen, who, if you have a resist one, is a very strong anti-cleave option. You have Carmen, who is, in my opinion, one of the best anti-cleave knights in the game for protection. You have your Moon Bunny, who I think is hard to use. People have kind of run her as tech against Conqueror Lilius, So if you don't pre-banner like I do when you're going second pick, you know, you might want to try her out. Your mileage with her will vary. You can't pick Emma Furious. I don't know why you would want to anyway. In my opinion, these 4 are like the best ones to pick for your ML4s. The other ones have uses too, but you know, these are the tried and true, or at least the ones that have meta applications in PvP. Okay, and that's the list. Hope you enjoyed it. I hope it's been helpful for you. Anyway, it's been a good one. Until next time, Nep out.